Hey everybody, welcome to the other side of addiction. Hey, we've got a really good show for you guys today. Al Richards here, your host, and we've got JD over there, and I'm going to say Greenouch, not Greenhall, Greenouch. I've been practicing all week to make sure, even though I've known this guy for a couple years, I've been saying his last name completely wrong. So JD, yeah, thank you for being here.
I've been used to it since gym class, so you're good.
You're just mad at me because I tied you up in your jock. That's the only reason.
Hey.
Hey, and we have our special guest co-host, the lovely Janessa, all the way down from Eden. So Janessa, thank you so much for being here with us today. She was here with us on an earlier show, and I tell you what, this gal asked some really, really good questions. She's becoming a pro. She actually even had us adjusting the camera before the show, which was really good because none of us noticed it, but she did. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Greatly appreciate it. Hey, we have a real special guest, Tracey Williams.
Hey.
How you doing, Tracey?
Great.
Good. And her husband, Ed, is in the studio. So how are you?
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. So Tracey was on a podcast, Todd Sylvester, who some of you may have seen the show that we did with Todd. Just an incredible man, is doing a lot of great work. And Tracey was on his show, Beliefcast. Yeah. And when I heard the show, I'm like, I've got to get a hold of this gal. I got to see if she wants to come on our show, because you've got just a great story that I think would help a lot of people. So just to share a little bit of her bio, Tracey never would have believed that the life that she lives today would have been possible. With over 20 years in addiction, unhealthy relationships, trauma, abuse, losing her children, and ending up in prison. She believes that the chances for a better life was out of the reach, and I've heard that so many times. On her journey to become who she is today, she went through some of the most uncomfortable and challenging moments, the ones that require her to take a good look at herself, her beliefs, and her choices. She was asked to face her fears, get 100% honest about everything, which I tell you what, that is hard for any of us to do. Mm-hmm. And trust the process. She did not think anything could be worse for her than living in her addiction and the consequences that accompanied the dreadful choices that she made. There's a little bit more, but I'd like to save a little bit of that for like the second half of the show. So Tracey, 20 years into addiction, that probably seemed like a lifetime.
It was a lifetime.
For you.
It was.
Yeah, I could imagine. And I know when it comes to being 100% accountable, I know just watching my wife go through the stuff that she's gone through, that's really difficult. And there for a long time, I thought it was difficult just for someone who was battling an addiction, no matter what the addiction was.
That's accurate.
Well, but it's accurate, I think, for all of us.
It is.
Right?
It is.
All of us struggle with that.
Mm-hmm. So the art of vulnerability.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Shame disappears when we become vulnerable. And you think it's going to be the opposite. You think that you're going to, share your most intimate, shameful details of your life, and that it's going to be compounded, that you're going to feel worse about it. But rigorous honesty is the freedom of just being completely vulnerable. 100% honest is 100% vulnerability. It's putting everything out there, the good, the bad, the ugly. The stuff that you're never going to tell anyone. You're going to take it to the grave, I think for me, recognizing that there was a way out, and all I had to do was talk to another human being.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about that is I don't think I ever really looked for a way out before. I didn't feel that there were options for a way out. I just thought that was the cards that those were the cards I was dealt.
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I struggled in that deep shame, that toxic shame that you probably learned about, right? I struggled in that toxic shame story. And it's interesting now, even though I've done a lot of work, in facing those fears and those challenges, my shame story will still pop up. Those old beliefs that were constantly, I'm a big book, a big book thumper. That's I got saved in the rooms. And, step 6 is made a list of all of our character defects and asked God to remove them. step 7, and so I'm constantly doing a step 7. Just remove this thought process I'm having, because it's so self-defeating even still, the ruts of our thinking,
Yeah, it does fester back up. We had a guest on from the UK, and I even talked about it on our morning show, but she said one day she just decided to throw all those beliefs, all that negative crap, all the trauma that she'd gone through in a bag and just toss it out the door and just say, I've had enough of the shit. I'm done with it. And to hear other people that have come on the show and kind of have that light bulb go off. We had Tamar from Canada on the show, and she was talking about one day she was just laying on the floor after taking a bunch of stuff and looking at her dog, and she's like, how did I get here? Why am I here? And just decided to put down the shovel and quit digging. So if you don't mind me asking, what we have been finding out from a lot of the shows, people have gone through some bad stuff in their life, whether it started in their childhood or maybe as a teenage year, but by connecting the dots backwards, have you figured out kind of what that was to get you to that point? Because we've had guests here as early as 13 years old that finally said, man, I can't deal with shit that's happening in my life anymore, and they start smoking pot or drinking or gosh, we've had people on the show at age 13, 14 years old was doing about everything you can think imaginable.
Isn't that sad?
It is. It is.
I've got a grandson that's 14, a granddaughter that's 10, and I just can't even imagine them putting any kind of substance in their bodies, and that wasn't me. Fortunately, that wasn't me, but it's funny, we do live life forwards, but we have to look back to make sense of it, all the time. And going back, I just never felt like I was enough. My home life, I don't remember much from my childhood. And even when I'm explained or see pictures, I still don't remember a lot from my childhood. And I was born without a hip socket. I have learning disabilities, and I always just never felt like I was enough. I was the middle child. I was very emotional as a middle child, and I just I grew up believing that I was better seen, not heard.
I've heard that from my wife, the exact same thing.
Yeah, and that's a pretty damaging space to function from your life, and so I just believed that if I wasn't doing something outside of myself to give myself value, then I had done, because what I thought or what I wanted to say wasn't good enough to be spoken about, or that my emotions or that my feelings weren't valid or important enough to be shared, and so I grew up from that place. And I could probably trace it back till I was like, 7. The youngest memory that I have, and that's a really scary place to function from. I was always involved with doing something though on the outside of me. Always, if it wasn't track or swim lessons or in the church choir or school choir or drill team or this or that. Like I was always just doing something. And, I still have that character defect of got to be doing something. Always.
Wow.
Like it's still with me. He gives me a bunch of crap about it all the time, actually.
I think that's what husbands are supposed to do, right?
I'm always worried about the doing. always worried about the doing, and that's how I felt, you know, growing up. And I just never fit into this one space or this one space, and I didn't have just this friend or that friend, you know. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. When my parents got divorced and I went to live with my mom, I moved a lot with her, and I became a chameleon. And so I never developed attachments, you know, to friends or people that I knew were going to stick around. And so I never felt like I really just belonged anywhere. I just existed everywhere I was, if that makes sense.
A gypsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
I like
it's,
that.
sorry, just relating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I grew up separate from my siblings. I felt like a single child. I worked from a very young age to help put food and stuff on the table, but I was a good girl.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I was a very good girl. And I went to church. My parents didn't go to church, but my grandparents did, you know, in that LDS culture. And this was in California and not even in this state. I wasn't raised in this state. And I'm sorry, I just got off track. The first time I ever did anything I shouldn't have done, I drank. And we were getting ready to go on our senior class trip, and I drank, and I got wasted. And I'd never drank like that before, and a bunch of us just went partying. And do not ask me what made it okay.
Just happened. Huh?
When everything in my being and all my values and everything that I believed my life was going to be like, you get married till death do you part, you don't have kids till you're married, or sex until you're married, you know, I had this guideline of values and principles that I wanted to live my life by, and that's how I had lived my life until I was 17. And at the age of 17, you know, I took my first drink. It was awful. Oh, I'm just going to be honest. I got so sick. I got so sick. My stepdad, he worked out on this ranch, and the next morning I was up early. He took me out to the ranch, and they were branding, dehorning, and deballing these cows, and I was green as green gets. You know?
I can imagine.
And
I'm green just listening about the deballing
I
part.
know, right? My job was to hold the bucket.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, and so then I went on my senior class trip, and next thing I know, I'm smoking Maui Wowie, and I loved smoking marijuana. I was a very always in my head as a kid growing up. You know, I was 2.3 GPA. I was stupid. I believed I was the most stupid human being, and I still struggle with that. You know, I graduated with a 2.0, 2 point something, really small GPA. I was in reading resource and math resource all the time, and so I just knew I was a stupid person. I didn't believe I had any intelligence, I just didn't believe that, and because I struggled. And when I started, you know, that was my first experience. You only had to be 17 to drink in Hawaii and smoke that weed, and that weed is what was just like, oh, it phased me right down, you know, made me feel a lot better. And I graduated high school, Malad, frickin' Idaho. I just want to...
My car broke down there.
Okay.
Janessa
So
knows
you
where
know what
that's
that's-
at.
I do.
It's actually on the map.
It is.
Oh wow.
But I went from living in California, where I had a school of 3,400 students, to a high school in Malad, Idaho, that had 57 in my graduating class.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and I was taken just back in time at that point in my life.
Back to the future.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's the same thing that popped
exactly.
in my head. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm wearing 501 Levi's and Van tennis shoes, and I'm like, what are they wearing? You know?
Wranglers.
Wranglers, bell-bottom pants. I don't
That's
know.
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I've actually had a pretty interesting childhood in the different areas of my life and where I've lived and the experiences that I've had. But after I graduated, I went to Arizona to live with my dad. I did not have a relationship with my father. He was an alcoholic. I was scared to death of him. Scared to death of my dad. And I just, every time I went there to visit, I didn't ever feel like I belonged there in that family. I didn't feel like that was my family. I felt like I belonged back where I was. And I love my siblings. I love my brother, and I love my sisters. And today we have an entirely different relationship, but back then it was a lot different. And I had sex for the first time in Lake Havasu City. I swore I would never do that outside of marriage. Like I would never drink, like I would never use drugs, and I got pregnant.
So
You know?
things really started changing.
The naive, the bubble that I lived in, the idea of life that I had disappeared entirely, you know. And then the man that I married was abusive, and I didn't have an experience with men at that time. And he would make comments to me, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. I left him weighing 97 pounds, you know.
Oh, jeez.
And so that was my first experience with a man. I had problems with my daughter's birth, you know, and I try to be really careful with making this statement because my daughter came to hear me share my story one time, and that's a really touchy area, okay? And she heard me say I never wanted kids. Because I never wanted kids as I was growing up. And when she heard me say that and how it changed my entire life, she took responsibility for ruining my life.
Wow.
And that was definitely something that her and I had to process through together. But I'm just grateful I'm in a place that her and I can process through that stuff together today. And but she held on to that. So I'm just really careful sometimes with what I say, in case she hears or wants to listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to be censored, right? But anyway, I left him in the middle of the night. And there's a lot more to that story. I just don't want to take up a lot of time. But
You know, and just thumbs up to you for recognizing that relationship that you were in, because I know a lot of times when young women get in a relationship and that's their first relationship, which is very toxic, they don't know anything else and they're afraid. And with you saying where you were at, thinking of how you were thinking of yourself, to think you could have thought, I can't get any better, or maybe this is the way all men are, I don't know, and to be stuck in that. So kudos to you for recognizing it and packing your stuff up and getting the heck out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they say, I've heard this a couple times, that it takes a woman that's in an abusive relationship, it takes them 7 tries to leave before they actually will do it. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah. That's accurate. I wish I could say that same strength, excuse me, stayed with me moving forward in my life. I really wish I could say that it did, and it didn't. But I left, went to live with my mom. Now I'm a single mom with a child. I don't have a relationship with my father. My father basically forced me into a marriage I didn't want to be in. That's how I felt. And then I didn't feel like I had help to get out of it when I asked for help to get out of it. And so I went to school. I'm working full time because what do? I do the most. Get busy doing. I'm really good at getting busy doing, you know. And I met this. Okay, I failed math. I struggle with math resource. I went into college for computer programming. Who does that? I'm trying to make ohm or circuit boards with ohm meters and calculate stuff. And I was failing school. Imagine that. And so I went to a study group after school one day, and this was actually at night because I was in school from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. And I was introduced to crank. And when I was introduced to crank, I found my niche. I felt like I just put on the cape of survival.
Oh yeah.
I felt that's what I felt. I felt like I didn't feel, let me rephrase that. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel unworthy. I didn't feel
It's numbed out.
those things.
10
I felt
feet tall and bulletproof.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I wore that cape
Yeah.
proudly too. You know.
Not to get into that and going down that road, I've always been told if there was one for JD's personality, that would be the one that would take me.
That's scary.
It is. That's again not going down that road, but because I'm usually a high-strung, just go person,
Yeah.
and even at the point of exhaustion and stuff. But they've always told like my personality, because I am, not to take away, but like,
No.
I hated English. Like I barely spoke English. I spoke redneck, right?
I still have a hard time speaking English.
But math was my thing. It was like a human calculator for me. Like, I mean, I would compete against people that way and stuff, but like numbers or just doing things like that, things that it just made sense naturally. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it was
Lucky.
like things like that, and just like the way that I am even in what I do now for work. But,
Yeah.
Not to take away, but they've
No, you're
always
not.
said, they're like, if we had to pinpoint one on you, don't, again,
Don't-
not that I would go
don't
down the
do the
road,
crank.
but they're like,
Don't do great.
the white stuff would be your friend, and don't do it. Wolf of Wall Street. Well, let's just leave it at that. That's about where I would. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, the crank will do that because I tried crank for the very first time. So out of high school, I wanted to go to trade tech, but back in those days, in '81, you had to take math and English and
Yeah.
science, and I'm like, I just took that crap in high school. I want to learn a trade. I want to take a class that just teaches me a trade. Well, you couldn't do it. So I ended up working construction, and we got transferred to Denver, and then from Denver to Phoenix. And I'm 17 years old. I'm a foreman of a crew, and my right-hand man is a guy that looks like the Zigzag Man on the rolling papers. His name's Don Armstrong. Whole body covered in tattoos. He was a biker. And he was basically, he just kind of like took me under his wing. I was like his son, and he was like my dad away from home. But I remember we got in the truck once to go mark out some stuff for the job that we had to do, and he's like, "You want some crank?" I'm like, "What's that?" I don't know what's that, because I'm from West Jordan, small little hick town. Well, it used to be small. And he goes, "Oh man, it's like a really good speed." And I'm like, "Oh, I've taken like black jackets and stuff." "Oh yeah, okay, it's like having a bunch of coffee, right?" That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, right. Yeah, I took a little bit of that, and my guys, they were even sitting back, leaning
running
against the
circles
truck,
around.
watching me, because I was like flinging picks and shovels, and I mean, it's like on the cartoons when you start seeing them go really fast. That was
They're like a
that was
blur.
me. Yeah, and it's like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Come on, let's go.
Get the nickname Roadrunner.
Roadrunner, yeah. So I could see how you felt that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, that was such a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
I had my daughter at 18, and I tried crank at 19. And so that's when I was introduced to that. So within months, I blew up the engine on my car. I found a local dealer. I wasn't going home. I got fired from my job. And the next thing I know, I'm in a drug house. And
Wow.
yeah, and not going home. My mom showed up to this drug house, and she basically kicked my butt to get my daughter out of my arms. And when my mom took my daughter, she took everything that I felt like I had left. And that's when everything changed for me. That's when the darkness of the disease settled in, and that's when the toxic shame of my life really became the monster, the beast. And then from that point on, I was just, I know, it used to be something you just see in the movies. Okay? Stuff like that can't really happen in life. That's just the movies. But no, the darkness of rape and survival. So I went from being innocent to living in the darkness,
Within a 2-year period, it sounds like 17.
just like that.
Yeah. That's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, really quick.
Yeah.
And
But it had been perpetual, I feel like. because you said
Yeah.
looking back,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that everything that I had been harboring about myself made it okay to fit in here with you and try this with that or try this with that. Do you know? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I was paving the way for my choices or behaviors to open the doorway for stuff like that.
So it's like in the back of your mind as you talk about having the guidance and the way, obviously, the church talks about, you get married, you have kids,
Yeah.
the I mean, the
Supposedly the
foundation,
norm.
yeah, the foundation of
Yeah.
that guidance. But having the things that had happened to you in the past, trying to a sense of feeling accepted,
Yeah.
right? And so it felt like you had this subconscious that you knew what you wanted as far as following that guideline from the church, but you had this consciousness that is like, I don't fit in anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that the right path? So
Yeah.
just being able to open up that roadway. No, I can relate because I was on the same way. I didn't want tattoos or anything like that. I was dating a girl who was church worthy and going and stuff, and my family was falling apart, and then me and her fell apart too. I went and got 2 nautical stars on the back of my arm, and I went for the ride of my life. So
Life's changing.
I remember going home with those on my arm, and my mom was like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh, welcome."
You're welcome.
And it feels like it's just so quick,
Oh yeah, it wasn't.
Just
But it's the same thing, feeling like you don't have that attention, you don't have that, you're trying to, like, I remember always, like, for even the longest time, it took me up until just not very long ago, honestly, to feel like I needed to always get somebody's approval
Yeah.
or their acceptance, or that I'm doing a good job, and, like, everybody deserves recognition. When you do a good job, like, people deserve it,
Yeah.
It does feel good. But it feels good when it comes naturally, not that you got to fight for it. You know what I mean? Knowing that you did a good job and that somebody else sees it, that's what's important. Or just knowing that you can see it yourself.
That's
But-
the most important part.
But,
yeah.
when you're doing it with people that you really truly care about, like your spouse or your brothers and sisters, your mom and your dad,
Yeah.
and your dad's just like, have you guys seen Despicable Me?
Yes.
Right? When he's all, hey, Mom, look, I made a spaceship out of macaroni. She's all, man.
Yeah.
He's like, look, Mom, I made a real rocket out of the model of this macaroni, and he launches up. Yeah. Let's see.
But that is actually what happens. I mean, that's a cartoon, but it still happens in
No, it's just
in
how
real
real
life.
relatable that is.
It is, yeah.
That again helped, it led to a different path of where you're at, that acceptance. Dad being an alcoholic, Mom and you moving around all the time, feeling like you couldn't attach yourself to something because once you did, you would lose it, right? And so, and then Dad, going through his things, he's not very dependable, in that aspect. On a mental stability that you needed, you had better stability from your grandparents, it sounds.
Yes.
But knowing again, they're your grandparents, they're not your parents. It's still a little bit different.
Yeah.
You
They
know?
were pillars of my life.
Yeah.
I was reading a article on child development. I can't remember where or exactly. I'm probably going to botch this, but it basically was talking about how when there is that insecure and like the
Attachment.
unstable home and everything like that, that you will try every different avenue to get that attention. Like when I hear you guys talking about, I can relate in some ways, but my story is different. But you will try to be that goody-goody, like I'm really good, straightforward, and then when you realize I'm not getting attention here, I'm not getting the recognition I need, I don't feel like I fit in, they say you'll do a drastic flip-flop to the other side because you're like, well, I'll try this and see if I get that acceptance here. And they say it's an actual pattern that they see in people that grow up in
No, that's
that
what.
instability.
That doesn't actually surprise me at
Yeah.
all.
I can't remember the name of the study or anything, but I was reading that and I was like, yeah, I see that a lot
Well-
with people. Even myself, I went through that as well.
Oh yeah, well I think
So-
as kids and stuff, because like growing up, depending on how you're disciplined too, because discipline's a very important part of life. It's just like being in the military again. If we didn't have the discipline and structure, like I wouldn't have followed things the way that needed to be done, right? Or taught that way, and I've carried things like that throughout my life. It's the same thing as being a kid. A parent, you're given that discipline, you know. I mean, I know we shun from it now, and again, this is just being open, right? I don't believe in beating your children is the right way to solve things, but I am a firm believer. I grew up getting my butt whooped. I grew up getting a
so did
spanking.
I.
You know what I mean?
We got the belt.
I got the string around the hay.
Yeah.
You know, so. Yeah, so
You
I
got
got
the
that.
whip.
Yeah, I got that, or I would definitely get dad's boot. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Like, you know, like, so growing up and having that disciplinary action, it was like, yeah, I ain't gonna wig out because I know what's coming, you know. But now kids don't get that discipline, and we don't get, or certain things aren't, that attention that a child is needing, which is important.
Yeah.
They, like you said, they'll do a major flip-flop. That's like when you go into Walmart, you see that flip-flop, that kid's sitting there, and he's a really good form of birth control decisions, right? You know, because he's sitting there freaking out and yelling at mom and dad really bad and crying. But it's again, that attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kid's craving attention from them so bad that the only way he knows to get it, and the only time he gets that true attention from the ones that he's just looking for love from, or she, is, okay, well, they're only going to give it to me if I have the biggest and best meltdown, you know?
I know
Oh,
they
the
get
last
this
meltdown
attention.
only hit 4 stars. Here comes a 5-star for you. Let's do this.
Yep.
I want that macaroni right now. You know?
But I don't. I mean,
It's a conditioned behavior.
yeah. And I mean, you said you were a middle child, and I have a middle granddaughter, and I've seen some actions in her, which my daughter and her husband have got a hold of it really, really quick and doing some really, really good things. But to see how you're trying to get that acceptance, like what we've all been talking about, but I just can't imagine being a mom and having that child taken away from you, because you've already in 2-year span taking your life from a pretty good place basically to a really bad place. But then to have that, I mean, that would almost be like walking in the room, having the lights shut out, the door shut behind you, and you don't know what's coming at you next.
Right. That's exactly right. It's exactly how it feels. It's exactly how it feels. I like, honestly, from being super naive to carrying a freaking knife on my side. You know, I didn't leave home without it, you know, and I ended up living in this environment, in this drug home, and, you know, and I was just introduced to things that, you know,
Wow.
that stay with you.
Yeah. I
Things
can
get
imagine.
taken from you that stay with you, you know, and then you take yourself out. At some point, I left myself way behind. You know, and that inner child, right? We leave ourselves behind at some point because we were just, anyways.
So, if I can, at that moment, you talked, your mom came while you're in this house, right? And staying there. She came and took your daughter from you.
Yeah.
And as I was just saying again, feeling like the lights are shut out and the doors closed and not knowing what else is coming at you.
Yeah.
What, you know, in that moment, where did that lead to? What was the...
I stayed out. I stayed running. I ran. I just ran. I did more drugs. I got in more trouble. I didn't get in trouble, the kind of trouble where the law was involved. But I did some shady stuff. You know, I started doing really shady things, you know, and I was a very honest child. I didn't even swear, you know. And so it like down the rabbit hole. I went down the rabbit hole, you know, into a land that I never even knew existed. And I stayed there. And one day, I called my mom up, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I ended up going back to Arizona. I rode with my sister and her husband, left my daughter there, and my sister was visiting my mom, and they drove me back to Arizona to get a fresh start. So what did I do? I went to work. I got busy doing. Got a job, got 2 jobs. You know, within 3 months I got my daughter back, and now I've got my own place, you know, and so I'm really good at picking up the pieces and getting to work.
Yeah.
What do? You go to work, you know, and then I met a guy. You know, I'm a single mom, and I met a guy, and it's just perpetual. Okay, and then I had tubal pregnancies, miscarriages, you know, from this guy who was also abusive. So I was lucky enough to find myself another one, and then I had my son, and I was going to put him up for adoption because the last thing my son needed was a failure for a mom, can't even care for a daughter, you know, and my daughter was like everything to me. She was everything to me. You know, I made a mistake and God blessed me anyways. That's how I felt with her. And then I ended up keeping my son. My daughter only met her dad once or twice, you know, once when she was a kid and then once when she was adult by her choice. And my son's never met his real father. You know, they were mine after that point, but I ended up keeping him. And I just have this history of using men, falling, losing my kids, more drugs,
So
more
that's-
darkness,
that
more
circle.
rape, more trauma, more and more trauma, more and more darkness, more and more shame. And it just, you know, and then I'm in this relationship for a really long time with this one man, and in the beginning it was the most beautiful relationship I ever had, but it ended up being the most deadly relationship I ever had. And you know, I always knew, and this is going to sound crazy, okay, but I always knew that God was with me. I experienced
Wow.
his goodness in my life growing up, and so I always knew of the presence, if that makes sense. I didn't understand it because I judged myself the way I felt like he was judging me, okay, which is you didn't follow the rules.
Don't follow the commandments. You're not.
You didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
You know, verdict is out. You know, and so that's when everything, you know, it's crazy. I just believe the devil's in the details.
Oh, he is.
We were just talking about that at lunch, JD and I. I mean, seriously, it's like JD brought up the point. He's like, when
You're right around the corner.
you're right around the corner trying to get somewhere where you really want to be, the opposition has a way of
Shoving
doing
you.
everything can to push you away from that.
Yeah.
And I never ever thought of it like that for a long time until a few years ago. But when JD and I was having a conversation at lunch and he brought that up, I went, holy crap. Yeah, I mean, it brought it right back to where it really seems like, because God wants us all to be happy. He wants us to have what we want to have in life, but the opposition doesn't. He wants that control from us. You know, I mean, he wants to take that control. And when we get close to what we're wanting,
Well, and I
Yeah.
think on that, you know, and if talking on a religious base, because you want to talk about the devil or Lucifer himself, he's an angel, right? In that sense. And I've opened my eyes on the religious spectrum, but I'm just going to relate to again what we've all been through here in that conversation. But talking about, you know, God puts these blessings, and you got to experience them really close in your life for a long time, right? And it's the same thing in talking about being around the corner, like working on something in your life. You're trying to, like, you know, for example, getting your kids back, or, you know, holding down a job and getting your own place again and just getting back on your feet. You go to work, like you said, you get it done, right? And you're in that space, and it's the same thing that I'm just relating here to us wanting to do something bigger, like with this podcast and moving forward, you know. And it's like we're right around the corner from that big break, but and God, like you guys said, his timing's perfect.
Always.
Right? His timing's perfect for
Always
everything.
on time.
yeah.
And so he has this, when you put it out there to the universe and to him, that, hey, this is what I'd like to manifest, and he wants to bless you. You truly believe you deserve that. He's going to put it there on Faith Street, right? It's the best way to
Faith Street.
Faith
He's
Street.
gonna put it
I
on
dig
Faith
that.
Street.
I dig
Yeah.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
but if you're over here on Lucifer Street, it's going to be really hard to cut through the grass and the other stuff to get to
He's
Faith
gonna
Street,
have all
right?
sorts of sabotages.
Right. But on our way there, I think that he also, the devil, knows that God has set this gift out for you on Faith Street, and you're headed in the right direction, and he knows when you're to receive that, and he's going to do everything in his power to make sure he throws off your calendar.
Oh, exactly.
You know, he's going to make sure he throws off your path. He's going to throw everything at you. And in our situations, it's been, drugs, problems with family, problems with kids, parents, finances. I'm sure, all the way through. It's been that way for us. It's like everything.
Yeah.
It's like you can see it. You can taste it. You, see that light at the end of the tunnel, and then it gets really, really small. And you're like, hang on a minute, we ain't going the right. It's because of all that stuff. We're talking.
It's almost like when you're camping and you're roasting a marshmallow and you've worked your ass off to get it so nice and
And
brown
golden.
and crispy, and then the son of a bitch catches on fire.
Right?
Damn it!
Or it falls off.
Or it falls off. Yeah, yeah. It looked like you wanted to say something when he was.
Well, so that's his job. To kill, steal, and destroy. He wants every soul that he can get. And he's going to use the closest things to you to see that you fail.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was going to say to that is when you learn the truth that unworthiness and shame. So my shame story was I didn't do bad things. I'm bad through and through. I'm just bad. There's no fixing the bad.
You already put that
I'm
label
broken,
on
I'm
yourself.
bad.
Yeah, there's no fixing, right? That's the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is, I made a mistake. Shame is, I am the mistake.
Yeah.
How do you fix the mistake, right? And so when you learn that is the lie, when you learn that you have been living in a lie, that the darkness that you have fed, it's really funny now. It pisses me off when he thinks he can step in. Like I had a little mini panic attack this morning on my way into work thinking about coming here today. And I was like, no, you are not jumping in my happy seat,
Yeah.
But he will use any little stronghold or foothold he can to get us off course.
Yeah.
To get us off course because he wants your soul. And the closer you get to the light, the harder he's going to try to keep you.
And something that keeps coming to my mind as you're talking, when my husband was in the really dark place that you're talking about in his addiction, he was a sex addict. There was a point where, we're trying to I'm trying to control him and be the therapist, the mom, I was like, I'm going to make sure you don't relapse again. And it was getting really out of control. Yeah. And so I was giving him a flip phone. I was, hiding the computers. I was doing everything.
Yeah. You were the police.
I was. Mm-hmm. And it's a miserable place to be.
It is.
But there was a time where...
It's traumatic.
It is. Mm-hmm. It really is. And there was a time my husband was when he was started, when we started healing, he's like, when you take my phone away and stuff, he's like, he goes, I really believe that Satan showed me where to find it, how to get around. He's like, I could be a freaking master hacker with what I learned. He's like, and it was just shown to me. He's like, I could get around every block, every password. I could find it. And that was a huge thing for me as I'm when people are like, oh, if I don't do this, then he's going to do this or she's going to do this. I have to stop them. Mm-hmm. You can't.
You can't.
No.
It has to come from them.
From within.
Within. Because if you try to stop them, I'm like, Satan will show them and they will do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's no way he could have learned that on his own. Yeah. Because he would show me, after, he was like, hey, this is going to freak you out, but this is what I can do. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That is really creepy, but he could get around anything. So I'm like, it's real. It's real.
That's like when my wife would hide bottles. So there for a while, I could find her bottles. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, I knew she was drinking. Even though she said she wasn't, she was having a hard time even standing up. And JD even brought it up on his show. I was addicted to her addiction, like you were probably addicted to your husband's addiction.
Yeah.
But it's like something had to show her where to hide this stuff, because when I moved, when she got thrown in jail and I was moving out of the apartment and I'm running across empty bottles, I'm like, how the hell did she come up with a place like this? Yeah. She was literally hiding bottles when we had the truck, before I had to sell the truck because she had lost her license and all that. She was hiding bottles inside the grill
Oh my gosh.
of the truck.
Yeah, that's not the
Now,
first
would
time
I've ever
heard.
thought to go out and look at a grill to find a bottle? Oh, hell no.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
like-
point, right?
It's like, how the hell is she coming up with this shit? I mean, seriously. So with what you just said, now that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I just learned something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna stop for a quick break,
Okay.
but we definitely got to come back to this because this is really,
Yeah.
really good stuff. So guys, hey, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
How do you start your morning? Start it with a cup of High Point coffee. Because no matter where you go or what you do, it's always better with coffee. High Point Coffee. What's your high point? Located on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road in West Jordan. And a special thanks goes out to our partners in Oxford, Mississippi.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. Man, the first half of the show was just, I'm going to use it as I always do, phenomenal. Thank you again, Tracey, for being here with us. Greatly appreciate it. So before we get started, we just want to make sure that we take some time and thank our sponsors. I want to thank High Point Coffee out of West Jordan. Steve and everybody out there is just incredible to work with. Great customer service, great coffee, great tea, great pastries. My good friends also, Tosh and Gregory with Lift Up Concrete out of Kaysville. Brad from Surf Pro, and we just want to say thank you to the Surf Pros from Ogden all the way down to St. George. USARA, which is Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness. Thank you, USARA, for believing in what we're doing and for all your support. We really do appreciate it. Computer Hospital out of Sandy off of State Street. Guys, if you got an issue with your computer, Letitia and Kevin, they will take care of you, and they will give you They are completely honest. They're not one of those places that you take your computer and they're like, yeah, you're going to need a new computer. They'll be upfront and honest with you. That's what I love about those guys. Customer service is really great. Refiner Productions, Cameron and Austin, thank you guys so much for the videos that you have done for me. Also for the support, for some of the commercials that you've done for us. You guys are just incredible. We just had a gal who was a guest on our show up here just a couple weekends ago, who loved their videos so much. When she saw the ones that they did for me, she came up from St. George to have some videos done with these guys, and they just did a great job. Also want to say thank you to Taffy Town, which is a 100-year-old company here in Salt Lake City. Actually, they're out in West Jordan. They're on their 3rd generation. So you guys looking, we got the holidays coming up.
Taffy Town.
Taffy Town. I mean, get out there. They've got, I can't even remember how many flavors they have, but it is a ton. They have so many different
I
flavors.
love me some taffy.
Oh my gosh, it is a great place. And we don't want to forget Brad Neufeld with Resilience Talk Network. Thank you, Brad. Thank you for everything. He's going to give us the camera thumbs up. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for all the support that you were giving us. I believe last I looked last week, we were at 64 subscribers on YouTube. We are only 36 away from hitting our goal of 100 by the end of October, and I really do believe we're going to hit it. Which
That's so cool.
that's going to put us in a whole
Subscribe.
new atmosphere. I mean, it really is. So, guys, thank you again. We couldn't do it without you, and none of this would be possible either without JD, Janessa, some of our other co-hosts, our past co-host, Lori. None of this would happen if it wasn't for all you guys. So thank you, and our incredible guests that we've had on our show. Wow, man, that first half was like deep. I mean, we were going down some really dark rabbit holes, and I think even though us on the other side have been down some dark rabbit holes with with our loved ones who are battling the addiction, but life. You had your daughter taken away, you moved back, got your kids, got a job, got in another bad relationship. You said it just kind of kept going in that same merry-go-round, that circle. It's like, when the hell is this stuff going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Now, at a point in your life, if I remember reading in your bio, there was a time that you actually did go to prison, and was from this just because the deep part of the addiction? Or, I mean, kind of, if you would, and if you're comfortable with it, what kind of led up to that point to get you there?
Oh, nothing but trouble.
Okay, all right.
I do want to just kind of go back and reiterate a little bit.
Okay.
When my children were small, like my daughter was taken from me, rightfully so. And then I lost my kids again. Both of them then, and then I lost my kids again. And the third time, though, my daughter left me. She was 16 years old. She's like, I can't raise you anymore, Mom. And she couch surfed. She literally couch surfed on her friends' couches to do whatever she could to avoid having to come home and be around me.
Wow.
And I recognize now, I knew then, it was one of the things I didn't want to face, was the damage I was doing to the people that I loved. I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face that I hurt you, or that I was destroying your life because of my choices. I didn't want to look you in the eye and say, it's my fault, you're so messed up. Or I didn't want to do that, and I could see it. I could see what I was doing, and at one point, I actually stole my daughter's car, and she said that she got a call from my destructive ex when she was at school, and this is what she's told me since. And she's also read me a poem that she wrote when she was 16. But she got a call from my ex about, do you know your mom's selling her body? Do you know she's doing this? Do you know she's doing that? And my daughter said she just hit her knees in the middle of the school and just started bawling. Books went everywhere. She just had enough. 16 years old, and my daughter's like, had enough. And she'll even tell you to this day, you know, that she struggles believing that people will stay for her, that she is enough that people will stay, or that she's worth fighting for. You know, and that's one of the, now I can accept that and let that just be what it is for her, right? And honor that for her. But when she was, I didn't want to look at that. We as addicts don't want to look our loved ones in the eyes and acknowledge or even admit that we had failed and become that horrible person to destroy the lives of the people that we love. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that fed a lot of that. I just kept feeding the darkness with more darkness. I remember looking at myself one time in the eyes, and I swear they went black. Right before my eyes. I'm looking at myself and they just went black. And I didn't even recognize who I was looking back at me. And I believed I was just filled with that much darkness. You know, because eventually you become the thing. Right? And so 38 years old, I got my first charge. You know, and I use, stop. And this was just the history of my life. And 38 years old, I got my first charge. And it was in Cache County. And it was a DUI. And I had meth, crack, marijuana, and alcohol in my system.
Wow.
And so it was a felony DUI. The very first charge I ever had was a felony DUI. And then it just perpetuated after that. I went to jail. And I remember sitting on the top bunk, looking out. Never been to jail before, 38 years old. And I remember sitting on that bunk, watching the women out in the, you know, they're just, and I was just like, what the hell have I done? How did I get to this place? How did I get here, you know? And I honestly, I swear I smelt my children, you know? Like they have a smell.
Yeah.
They do.
Your kids have a smell, and I swear I smelt them both, and I was I was destroyed. That didn't stop me, though. It just fed that darkness. And so I just kept, after I got that charge, I got another charge, and then I would get another charge. And I just started picking up charge after charge, and back into jail, out of jail. And, you know, and you make these resolutions when you're in jail. You're like, I know when I get out this time, I'm never going to use again. I'm going to fix my life, and everything's going to be grand, you know? And then you get out, and you're like, who am I calling?
Within 24 hours.
Yeah,
That's
less.
how my wife usually
Way
was.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's 24 hours? Let's talk 2.
Yeah. She'd come home and
crazy.
tell me she had a spiritual experience, and even this last time when she told me it, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, right.
It's true.
Yeah, I've heard this many times, but
Yeah.
this time I think really this one was deep because now she's coming up on 10
Well,
months
it's like
sober.
that though. Like again,
I know, right?
as you guys were mentioning earlier, talking about the devil, right? And we had our conversation earlier, and just again to this situation, it's like you go into jail. You know, it's you've got things that don't go on inside the jail that are good, right? There's certain things that go on there that are shady, but nonetheless, it's harder to get certain things to you, right? But then when you come out that door of release, the devil's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
Congratulations!
Marching bands out there.
Throwing the confetti, right?
yeah, we have been here. We're loyal,
Yeah.
you know."
So
We haven't
We are
left
your
you.
biggest cheerleaders.
Yep.
So we call that in the program.
If she can't do it, no one can.
And they'll show you, they'll prove that, you know, but we call that in the program that your disease is just doing push-ups, waiting for the next time. Waiting for the next time. So your disease is doing those push-ups. It just gets stronger as it's waiting in the background for you to make that one small decision, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Very accurate.
You know, and it's
I relate it just because of my dad going in and out of jail and stuff like that. Or just, I've got friends that work on the correction side of things, you know, and they say the same thing. Like, a lot of people that go to jail or that are in prison, like, a lot of them are really good people.
Yeah.
They just made bad choices, you know,
Yeah.
or something's got a hold of them. And you got those other people that are in there like, well, this sucks, we got caught. Circle up, boys. We're going to talk about how we're not getting caught the next time, you know? Game plan. You know, option Y didn't work. We've been through most of the alphabet. We're starting to go into double A's.
we're going to double A's, yeah. And what's hard for us who are on the other side it's easy for all of us to go, because I used to tell my wife this, and I'm sure you told your husband this, and I'm sure you told your sister and family members this. Just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just freaking
Can't you
just
see what you're
stop.
doing to us? Yeah.
So I had an addict tell me something this week, and I was like, damn, what a great way to put it. She goes, Al, let me tell you how hard it is for an addict, okay? I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy you a box of laxatives, and I want you to eat that whole damn box of laxative. Then I want you to sit at home and do everything you can not to crap your pants. Not run to the toilet,
Oh my
but you
God.
do everything you can not to crap your pants. Do you think you could do it? And I'm going, well, hell no. And she's like, that's what it's like for an addict. We're doing everything we can to hold it back and hold it back and hold it back, and all of a sudden it nails you.
We've all seen Dumb and Dumber, right?
You know?
That's what I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah, kind of.
When
yeah.
he runs into the back, when he's grabbing the doors, freaks out and gets in there.
But
And then she comes in just to make it worse. The toilet's broken. I'm just shaving.
But I mean, seriously, if we were, that gave me a whole new vision of the battle, how hard it is, you know, and especially with like alcohol, because it's everywhere.
It is.
Porn stuff, it's everywhere. You just don't have to go home and put in a tape anymore. It's on your phones. I mean, you can get it almost anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine. And when you're locked up and then you get out, it's like we were just joking here, the devil's out there waiting for you. He's got the balloons and
Right.
confetti and everything. It's like, man, here you go. You know, we're here for you. How easy that would be to fall right back into that.
It's easy because we don't believe that we can do anything different. We have developed a belief system that it's safer, what is the saying? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? And so we step out because we have we get clarity in jail. We get clarity. Then we get back out and we're left to ourselves again. Nothing's changed. We just have a little more clarity. We haven't learned anything different. We haven't done anything different to gain an awareness about ourselves, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so what do you know when you get out? You know what you know.
That's exactly right.
That is it.
With that, being in jail, obviously there's still ways that people get or do certain
All
things,
the
right?
time.
However, being in there, usually when you realize, like, how the hell did I end up in here, right?
Yeah.
And you want to change it, you
Yeah.
do go through a sense of forced sobriety, right? Sobering up. Do you feel like, too, because of even though being in that situation, and again, like I said, a lot of good people are in there, right? But do you feel like you felt like you had some kind of connections in there in the aspect of that kind of kept your head in the right place? You're gonna make a progress, you're gonna not come back here, you know what I mean?
The first time I went in?
No, just like in general. Being
Oh, in general. So
Yeah.
the first time I went in, no. I waited for my girlfriend to come bail me out. You know, but after a while, when you're in and out, and in and out, and in and out, you come to that resolution. You do.
Just having that community, that's what I'm saying. We were talking about community when we had recovery days, right? There's people
Yeah.
that are talking about it. And even though it may be in jail and stuff, but you have somebody that's in your cell, usually you've got a bunk mate, right? Or when you go out and you're in the common area and stuff like that, right? Or you're outside for your daily exercise or whatever. But you're community in that aspect. You got a small group of few people that, you learn to usually kind of like have each other's backs while you're in there, right? And then though they're not getting released at the same time you are, right? So you walk out those doors, they're still in there, and like you said, you know what you know.
So you want to know how that worked for me?
Yeah.
I'd
I'm
get
curious.
phone numbers because we'd get, we develop friendships in there. I'd get phone numbers, and as soon as they get out, we'd hook up and use. They became sources, or I became a
Yeah.
source. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we still didn't learn anything different. We knew we wanted different. We talked about wanting different. We even got honest about some of the things that we've done, right? But You don't know what you don't know.
See, that's where I think our system is broken, and we've talked about this a few times on the show. But a lot of people, not all of them, but there is a large percentage of people who have gone to jail, like yourself, or even like my wife, and that, who really hasn't done really bad. I mean, they're battling an addiction, and maybe they stole or whatever, but. Mallory, I still like going back to Mallory's story when she was in front of her PO and he's like, what do I got to do to make you realize your life is worth living? And she said, I want to be inspired into recovery, not punished into recovery. And we were just out with dinner. Brad and I was out to dinner with her just this past week, and we were talking about that. And to me, that's so huge. Because I think our society is so busy punishing these people when a lot of almost every single one of our guests that have come on this show, you yourself, it's like, I don't want my life to be this way anymore. But like you said, you know what you know, and you're going to continue to go back to that because that's what we're comfortable with. That's where we're going to go to feel what we need to feel in life. And I think this punishment that we're doing is the wrong type of punishment. There's got to be a different way. And that's also another reason why we wanted to do this show, is to get rid of that frickin' stigma that these people are bad.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
Well,
they're not bad.
No, and I think with that, and again, this is just we live in crazy times right now, right? We see a lot of crazy stuff going on with us, and talking about systems being broken. And you know, when you go there, and I mean, I've felt this way. If you've gone to court, obviously, and you're in front of a judge, right? And I mean, I can relate to going. I do door-to-door sales for a living. Like, that's what I've been doing for a long time. But I remember getting a solicitation ticket once, and I went in there, and I felt like I was the biggest criminal in the world, right? It was like, man, you know, if I'm going to be here, hang on, there's a Wells Fargo around the street. Let's make this count.
Let's make it worth it, right?
You know what I mean? But, you know, when you go in there, but then it's like the prosecuting attorney, the judge, it's like humanity of it. You don't feel like there's that human connection. There's that, what's the right word?
It's like
Connection.
Well, connection, but when remorse, you know, like, God, you know, like, man, you're going through this. Let me hear your side. Like, truly hear it.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's like it's really hard when you know, obviously they're like, hey, plead the fifth, don't speak. You know, make sure you get an attorney or whatever, because it's all about what's in the code and the handbooks and everything else. It's like, how about you listen to the story, because it's more true than those codes and those laws are ever gonna be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Well, and I loved what you said, like, about when you were quoting your friend. You know, I'd rather be inspired into recovery than punished, and I totally agree with what you're saying. But this experience that kind of hit me in that, because when I started learning kind of the fundamentals, like when we started recovery, I mean, we went to ground zero. I mean, communication 101. Like, how can you, like, talk to somebody in a mature way, you know, or our feelings, emotions, everything. And we learned about boundaries. And at first, I took boundaries as, wow, this is just a really clever way of punishing, you know? And I abused boundaries. I was like, you don't do what I want, then I'm going to think of all these consequences, you know? And I just renamed it, you know? And I remember for a while, I used that against my husband. I'm like, okay, you did that, then this is what's going to happen. Out of the house, you know? And there was one night, and I always get emotional when I talk about this one, but I had kicked him out. And he had relapsed, and it was like really bad, and I was like, you're out of here, don't come back, you know, for a long time. And so he left, and then at 2 a.m, I hear pounding on the door, and I go, and it's him, and he is just in tears. And my husband doesn't cry hardly ever. I mean, I really can count on one hand how many times he's cried in his life, but that was one time. He was just shaking uncontrollably, and he's like, I can't do this without you. And he's just like, and it felt so sincere. I didn't feel like he was trying to manipulate me or anything, but I just was like, it like hit me in the head so hard. It's like, you've been going about this all wrong. He just needs love, not punishment. So I just I had him come in the house, and I just sat on the couch, and I just held him as he just shook in my arms, and it was one of the most powerful moments. And after that, I was determined to find, how can I change this to love, not, like you said, love and inspiration, not punishment. And it was so much more effective. And as I turned to that, it was like all these doors opened up, and we were able to find what really was going on. And my husband in October will have hit 2 years of sobriety.
Man.
So it's really awesome.
That's
but
awesome.
I can
Happy
attest
birthday.
to that.
Yeah.
That it's love and unconditional love, no strings attached. It's not the punishment and the hammer, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's a time and a place.
Absolutely. I think you get people in there that it's just a regular thing, or they
Yeah.
don't care, you know,
Yeah.
but for the most part it is. You've got a backstory where this came from, where, you
Yeah.
know, your husband probably, you know, again, he had the same thing, you know, us even on the other side, you know, your husband over here, again, same thing, you know, like Brad, you know, been through stuff but you go up against a system that's in place by the wonderful taxpayers. Like I said, I'm not going to go down on a broken system, but it is. There's no love. There's no compassion. It's simply at the end of the line of what financial gains is going to happen for their benefit, instead of, hey, let's actually save this person's life.
Well, so ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. I believe that we've made huge changes with stigma. I honestly do. Even from 12 years ago when I got sober, the stigma of using, you hear about opiates, you know, billboards are now up, more programs are available, insurances recognize it more, right? And so we have more solutions available to us. APMP officers, police officers are now required to take mental health, right? So that they can deal with ODs instead of going and judging a person who's overdosing. Let's go and
Help
show
them.
kindness.
Well, that's why they changed that law, that because people, if they had a friend overdosing or in that situation,
Yeah,
they
they
wouldn't call
were-
the cops, because like,
they were
I'm
afraid
going
of
to
getting
jail
arrested.
anyways.
Yeah.
So now they
Yeah.
can't arrest, even if that person is high and intoxicated, they can't arrest them
Right.
for doing the right thing and saving this person's life.
Yeah.
A lot of the stigma that we face anymore is personal. How are they going to look at me? Even though it's more acceptable, it's personal stigma. Like, this is my, and you know, because we just fold into ourselves, you know.
Absolutely.
Even though we have people reaching their hands out, like, hey, come this way. You know, we're just like, you know, it's, you know, I just.
But I think you go to that point too, because you have, you know, tried figuring things out on your own too, to get away from it, or have talked to certain, not opening up a lot, but maybe to those in that circle that you kind of trust,
Yeah.
you know, are doing the same thing. But like, you got both, like you said, being in jail, you know, you talked about getting out of it and not wanting to be in it and stuff, but then you just ready to get out. I think that's the other thing too, is you just not opening up, or you may have opened up to certain people or said certain things to certain people, and it's just caused that effect where you close back up.
Yeah.
And then when the right people or the right programs come in place and it's extending their hand, you're like, you're just comparing it, even though you haven't been with them, you're comparing it to the roads that you've been down. You're like, this is just another road for me to end up where I was at.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm deciding if we should stop for another quick commercial break, and then when we come back, I would like to know, you've been in and out of jail, where that aha moment was, because it seems like
I would love to share that with
the
you.
majority of our guests who've been on, there's something, just kind of like something that pushed you to the addiction. It's like something finally put that wall in front of you, and you're like, enough's enough, right? So can we go there when we come back?
Absolutely. In fact, that's my favorite part of sharing my story. Generally, I don't even go into all of the
Ooh,
all
no,
the
we're
other
talking-
crazy,
Okay.
you know, because that's just life. But I love to share my story of strength and hope.
Okay,
But
Yeah.
it's also,
let's do it.
And really quick, just on that again, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's a lot of people, you know, it's just like reading the books and stuff, the success books and stuff, I always see the finished product, you know. And it's easy to front that, you know. But on our journey, they don't talk about that journey or what they went through. A lot of people don't, you know. So it's important to, and again, I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because it's what to relate is like people going through the same things right now. Yeah. They'll be able to go like, yeah, you know what?
There's hope.
It's possible.
Exactly.
It's
you know,
possible.
because everybody tries to mirror that final example, and they don't have a somewhat of a blueprint on how to get there.
Yeah.
They don't see the blueprint of what this person went through to get there. They see the end result.
Yeah.
And that's the issue right there. You know, that's why. Again,
Show
like
me
you
all the
said,
little steps.
Yes, exactly.
How did you get there? And then how did you get that? And then there. You know,
Yeah,
Exactly.
the only ones that want to show those steps, they usually ask me for a very large sum of money that I do not have, you know?
All right, guys, we're going to stop for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer pre-packaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com, that's taffytown.com, to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. Man, we have had a killer show. This has just been really good. So before we get started, we just want to thank a few more sponsors. Again, we want to thank Troy Hutto with I Am Power Ninja Real Estate. Troy is an awesome dude. I love this man to death. Met him a couple years ago. Just a phenomenal guy. Excuse me. TJ McLeland from Fitness Realty. And a good friend of mine who I met a couple months ago at a networking group, Tatiana Rose with Advanced Business Books. Guys, thank you so much for, again, everything that you do, all your support, all your love. We are very, very grateful. Again, thank you to Brad, Resilience Talk Network, to all our listeners and our great co-host and guest co-host that we have on these shows, and our incredible guests that we have on. So, man, Tracey, we have been getting in some really deep stuff today during the show, but something I saw you light up before we were getting ready to break, talking about when that aha moment was, and you said this is like one of your favorite things to talk about, and I can see why, because when my wife got her aha moment, I've been with this woman for 15 years, and it's almost like I'm married to somebody that I've never been married to, because I'm starting to see this person who I felt was inside. She just didn't know it was inside. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize it was going to be like it is, which is it's good. Yeah. So share with us. I mean, as our friend Tara, Tara from Canada. Anyways, my brain's going crazy. But like she said, she finally just dropped the shovel. Mm-hmm. So share with us.
So I couldn't get it right. Didn't matter. I failed drug court. I failed the DORA program. I failed every kind of program they tried to put me in to reform me, but I was plucked out of my life and put in prison. Before I went to prison, I was in jail for the last time, and I was actually fighting the charge. And I was on zero tolerance. You get any more trouble, you're gone, you're down. Zero tolerance. And I was put in jail. And I was in this cell all by myself. And that's rare that you're in a cell and that you're in there by yourself for days and days. And anyway, I got put into this cell, and I was at my deepest despair. The kind of darkness or the kind of despair, and I don't care who you are in life, where if you stuck your hand down your throat to try to pull out all of the pain, you would never reach bottom. And I just hit my knees. And I just started bawling, like just wailing from that soul cry place where you're just crying out because there's nowhere else for it to go. And I'm just crying out. And I hear this voice resound in my head. And he says, throw it all in. And these great big hands come down holding this great big white box. And he says, throw it all in. And in my mind's eye, it was just as tangible as this desk is here. And I started throwing in every single shame story, every single belief, every single failure, every single, like, all of it. I just started, in my mind, I'm just throwing. And then by the time I'm done, I'm like literally exhausted. And I catch my breath and I'm just sobbing the whole entire time. And I didn't care who heard me. You know, if they wanted to go toes after I got out of the cell the next morning, we'd go toes over it, you know. But when I was all done, I just took a deep breath, and the white hands, their big hands came down, grabbed the white box and said, it is done. And in that moment, I was filled with the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And I knew from that moment forward that no matter what was going to happen for the rest of my life, no matter what those consequences look like, that I was going to be okay. I just knew it. Now, I'd been baptized Catholic, LDS, Catholic, Christian, all in search of something higher than myself. And that day, in that cell, on my knees, it wasn't even throwing the shovel. You know, I finally found peace. I still went to prison. You know, I still went to prison. But behind the bars of prison, I went to treatment. And I learned for the first time. And I was in there with a bunch of broken women just like me, moms, daughters, grandmas, aunts, you know, sisters, just like me. All ages, all kinds of stories, all just broken, all the same. But in the drug program, they call you residents, not inmates. They teach you about behaviors that keep you sick. They taught me that there was another way. There were incredible people that would volunteer their time, and they would come in and they would share their experience, strength, and hope. These wonderful women would come in every Sunday, and they were with NA, and they would talk about their life, and they would share their lives with us convicts. You know, and let me tell you what, when I went in there, I was empty. I was a shell. I was a shell of a person. I was as empty gets. I had destroyed everything in my life, destroyed all of it. And everyone in my path, destroyed. And before I went into prison, I found out my daughter was pregnant with my second grandchild. And I was going to miss it. And that devastated me, but I felt like I deserved it. I didn't deserve to be a part of that baby's life anyways. You know, my daughter said, Mom, I can't have you in my life. I need to protect my family from you. I need to protect my life from you. I have a different life now, and I need to protect them. You know, and made sense. My son, by the time I went in, said, don't you ever effing call me. I don't ever want to see you again. I don't trust you. I don't like you. You know, and so I just literally just destroyed everything. And I love my kids. I love my kids. I love my kids. And I stayed away because I couldn't. I just couldn't. I just destroyed them being near them, you know. And when I went in, I realized what I found was people that cared about me. People cared about me. I was worth caring about. I was worth being told about myself. You know what your problem is, girl? I'm going to tell you what your problem is. And I would stomp off all pissed off, too. I'd be like, I'm not going to listen to that shit. And I'd turn around and go the other way, you know? Because we don't want to be told about ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't want to be told about ourselves, you know? But these wonderful women came in, and they shared their experience, strength, and hope. And I went to every kind of church program in there. And what I do in prison, even, I went to work. I started going to every life skills class. I was leading the section. You know, I did everything I possibly could in prison because I had nothing left. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I couldn't make phone calls. Nobody was calling me. I wasn't receiving, you know, I was like alone. And I'll tell you how I got free behind the bars of prison. That relationship that I started on my knees that day in that cell continued to save my life every single day I was in there, because I realized that my vision of myself would never be sufficient. And so I had to hold on to a different vision of myself until I could make that vision my vision. If that makes sense. And
Not seeing yourself how you seen yourself, seeing yourself how God sees you.
yeah. And I learned that he saw me as beautiful, perfect, childlike, innocent, without blame, without shame, you know, free. I got many gifts from God when I was in there, many revelations, many aha moments, God is never late and he is never wrong. Never late. He's never wrong. And he puts the right people in the right place at the right time every single time. And I'm so grateful for that in my life, because that gave me everything I needed so that when I walked out those doors and those doors closed behind me, I knew I was never going back. I knew that I knew that I knew I was never going back. I knew it. You tell me what to do and I'm going to go do that. I'm going to shut this. I'm going to be open here and I'm going to listen. And I'm going to keep trust. I'm going to keep trusting. I'm going to keep trusting. I'm going to keep trusting, you know. And that's what I did. And God lined up everything perfectly. Like chess pieces on a board. You could just see everything moving perfectly. Perfectly. One of the gifts that he gave me when I was in there is I had a roundabout idea when my daughter was going to have the baby. And one morning I woke up and I'm like, she's having that baby. She's having that baby. I didn't know if she had it or if she was going to have it, but I knew it was happening on that day that I woke up. And I carried this picture of her around with me all day long. And I told everybody about it. When I got back to my cell that night, I wrote in my journal, I know my daughter has had her baby today. 7 days later, the lead in the section comes over, one of the guards, comes over with a sticky note. It's like 10:30 at night, and he's like, Williams, and he calls me to the door and puts this sticky note up against the door. October 6th, 6:30 a.m. Baby girl born. And it was the exact same day I wrote in my journal.
Wow.
We are not forgotten. We are not forgotten. We are not worthless. We are not broken. We are worth fighting for. We are loved. We are important. We are special. We have a gift. We have a plan and a purpose, you know, for our lives. And we are worth loving. We are worth loving. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what your mental health issues are, what your addiction problems are, you know, because everything filters down into worth. What are you worth? And if you're not sure, how do we figure out how to get you to a place where you at least are willing to explore what it is? And that's what I get to do. You know, my mom told me once a long time ago, she's like, honey, your ability to love will be your greatest downfall. And I believed that because I kept going from one broken man to the next thinking I could fix them. I'm broken, you know what I mean? What I was thinking, you know, but I always love easily, you know? But what I've learned is that's one of my greatest gifts. My ability to love you is my greatest gift because I use that to validate to support, to encourage, because I had a therapist tell me one time, there's one thing people need more than love, Tracey. You know what that is? And I said, no. And he said, validation. People need validation more than they need to be loved. That was accurate. I just wanted to be validated. I didn't need to be told I was broken anymore. I didn't need to be reminded how broken I was anymore. I didn't need that anymore. God showed me that day in the cell. And from that day forward, I've done nothing but trust. And now today, I can tell you that I have doubts, because that's our human nature, that's our humanism, but I am worthy. I am courageous and confident. I am important. I have a purpose and a plan here. I have a gift that needs to be shared. And as long as I stay open to what gave me or what I'm meant to be here to do, that gift is going to be given. And I get to help people change their lives, whatever capacity that looks like. And one of the greatest gifts I've been given is the ability to do that with my own children. My kids talk to me about whatever they want. I have a relationship with my children like I never ever thought I deserved to have. In 2015, I asked my daughter to come to the treatment center that I worked at to come share her story about what it was like to be raised by me. She came that day and she shared her story, and she was apprehensive and she was very scared and very uncertain about what she could say and not say, because she didn't want to send her mom off the top, right? Mm-hmm. Mom's doing good, don't want to go losing my mom now, And she has done it 10 times probably since then at different.
Wow.
Yeah, she'll come to the treatment centers that I work at during family night when the entire families are there, and she'll share her story. And you know what I get to do? I get to sit right next to her, and I get to cry, because she'll say things that are hard to hear, but she gets rid of all that residual.
Yeah.
And she said one time, she said, Mom, she said, loving you was like a box in my heart. And she said, and picture this little button at the bottom of this box, and there's a little ball that just rolls around in this box by my heart. And every time I would get hurt, that ball would get bigger. And every time that ball got bigger, that button got hit more and more. The pain, more and more. And I'm sure you all can relate to how this might feel. And she said, eventually, Mom, that ball was so big, it just sat on that button all the time.
Yeah.
And she looked at me that day when she shared that story and said, I don't have a box. I don't have a ball. I don't have a button. And so it is important to get rid of that residual, to be that vulnerable, to allow freedom to take the masks off, to hear the hard truth, to look at your hard truth about yourself, accept it, get accountable, and do something different. But one thing that I know is there's a God out there who has a plan and a purpose, and I don't care. Your dad may never figure it out, but you are. You gave your dad and yourself the greatest gift you could ever give by forgiving him so you could live free. We don't forgive people so that they can feel better. We forgive people so we can be better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? 100%.
And I knew that, making that choice, but it was one of those things, carrying it on for so long, and I've carried it with him, my mom, my sister. Me and my sister were close, like tight, even though when she was going through this stuff, I loved her. It was the same thing when I had my baby. Yeah. I told her, I love you, but you can't, when you're high, you can't be around my kids.
That's right.
And so, that was really hard. And, but that forgiveness side of it and stuff, it's like we make jokes about it, it's like some of them and some that still have the problems, it's like, it's like, we know the truth, like, you're okay, tell me, it's okay, like, I can accept it, I promise you, like, I know, right. I know more than you think I know, but it's like, just, I'll love you just the same, like, you don't have nothing, but it's that internal side too, like, being able to let it come off your chest, but letting it go and forgiving them is a big thing, because it is exhausting. It is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've all done things in physical activities that have worn us out, right? And I would much rather go wear my body out physically to the point that I can't move,
Agreed.
that I feel sick. I mean, I would walk through the desert without water and rather feel that pain than I would the pain of what it felt like going through that resentment and that hate and that deceit and
Betrayal.
yeah, you know, feeling like, and it's the same thing. I grew up as a good kid, like, you know, I felt like I had a pretty decent head on my shoulders. I'm not saying that there's times I wasn't a shit, but you know,
Still is.
hey, no, my
I've got secrets.
my 13-year-old has picked it up very well for me. So, yeah, you know, but you go through those moments again. But that you're talking about love and validation, right? And that validation is important, and I think it goes to people that aren't even on the addict side. It goes to all sorts of people, you
All
know.
people.
You know, we all need validation. So it's that talking about that recognition,
Yeah.
you know, like validating. You know, it's nice to hear. It's like in a relationship, you want validation that your person, your other half, loves you. You know, that you have that communication 101, that you can come home and you have the affection, the conversations, the joy, the laugh, the love, when you can be weird and it doesn't matter and whatever, you know, like that's what it's about, right?
You can't be too weird because social media will catch it.
Hence to why we cover our cameras.
Jeanette's
Right?
looking at me like, what's going on?
Well, so that.
Hey, so if you hop on YouTube and look up Al's house.
So I will say real quick that, you know, I married Edward in May.
Congratulations.
And
Yes.
thank you. But one of the most uncomfortable things for me to still experience is validation. He validates me and my level of importance in his life all the time. I'm like, stop, because I still have a hard time receiving that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But I'm learning. I am absolutely learning how to receive it.
And go ahead. Did you have? I didn't want to interrupt you. Okay. It means a lot that you have to accept it. It's like I've always had an issue where if somebody's offering me something, I'm like, no, thank you. And it's my wife who helped me with this, and I'm the one that was reading all the self-help books. But she's the one that said, you're breaking the cycle. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm breaking the cycle.
Yep.
She goes, you have done so much for other people. That's the cycle coming back to you. So
When you refuse it,
you're breaking that chain, and it takes a long time for it to come back around. So now I'm like, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And you're doing work now, if hopefully I'm not wrong, but you're doing work to help others
Oh yeah.
who have gone through what you've gone through.
Yeah.
So you're doing God's work.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
By going out there and helping other people. So with your husband validating you, you're getting what you're giving, you're getting what
Cycle
you're
of life,
giving.
right? Yeah.
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 So, interesting thing about my dad, real quick, okay? My dad called me up. I think I was out of prison a year. And he said, "Hun," and my dad and I, we barely, you know, that relationship. He said, "I got to ask you a question, hun." He said, "They're sending me into the prisons here in Arizona as part of his calling." And he said, "I don't know what they need. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do they need?" And then for the first time in my life, I had a conversation with my father that was the most real, raw conversation I'd ever had in my life. And my dad and I have an incredible relationship today. You know, I know he loves me. I know he cares about me, you know. And God just has a way of restoring, and that's his promise, right? He will restore everything we've lost times 10.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you can't put limits
you can't. Yeah,
because there's not one.
there isn't. Yeah,
We were talking about that at the first show.
Yeah.
Remember how there's no finish line?
there's no finish line.
It's constant, because I do know people in my life who have worked on bettering themselves, and now they may say, okay, I've put in 5 years worth of work, and
I'm done.
you're the one now that has the problem, not me. And it's like, no.
Never heard that.
There is no stop, because I've been working on myself for the past 12 years, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface, in all honesty. I mean, I've come a long ways, but I've only scratched the surface. There's still so much more that I can learn and I can do. So there's no finish line.
We are always. Go
you
ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I just recently, I've been helping somebody through recovery, and they just started. And she came up to me and she's like, so what's the timeline? How long does this take? And I'm like,
Sorry
you know
for
what?
laughing.
I don't know if I, like,
60 days, 3 hours, 18 minutes, and 23 seconds.
And
Okay,
I
done.
just sat there and I'm like, this is gonna devastate her. I'm like, but there isn't one. I'm like, I'm still on it.
Yeah.
There's not. I'm sorry to say that. And they're like, what? Like, it's like, I'm like, but I don't want to get your hopes up. Like, it gets better. Like, it does. But there is no timeline.
Yeah.
There's no end to it.
No.
And you get comfortable with it. Like, that's my new comfort zone.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. And I love that.
I
That it's
know.
like, I don't want to go back to not
Yeah.
recovering. I want to always stay on that.
Well, I
Isn't
think
it
with that,
more
if you
filling?
put that,
Yeah.
I was just going to relate, that recovery is just an ongoing process, and it's not a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 6-month, year program.
Right.
Obviously to get off of whatever may be the subject, but it's also too like the lessons in life. Think about it. When we go back to things that we did wrong, you learn not to touch the stove when it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
And how you learned was either your parents got really on you about not touching it,
Or you
touched it, right?
I was the one that touched it.
But we're in furlong recovery on that,
Yeah.
knowing that we're not going to go back and put our hand on the stove,
Yeah.
right?
It's
That's still, when we get to that moment where we're cooking, not to put your hand on there. Why? Because of that recovery you had to go through of it burning your hand.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you're not there to go, this time it ain't gonna burn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a
Uh-huh.
constant. So
We're-
relating that, I'm just relating that to things that we go through in life, the lessons, right? Sometimes we have to have that lesson a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Tell my kid not to stick the gum wrapper in the light socket. It doesn't come out very good, buddy. No, the penny will do the same thing. I promise you. And trying different things, but it's like you have these different ways, like probably in the drugs and stuff like that, or the alcohol. You try different things, like if I do it this way, it ain't gonna be as bad, right?
Yeah,
it
doesn't.
Just because the burner circle's a little bit smaller, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't
still
mean
the
it
same.
burns
Still
the same,
burns.
right? So sorry, that analogy went so well with me on so many ways in life right now. I was just like, yeah.
So to wrap this up, because we've been doing this pretty long, and I'm not regretting any second. I mean, it's been so flippin' good. This has really been awesome. With everything that you've been through in your life, Tracey, and the steps that you have gone and where you are at in your life today, what is something that you can leave with us and with our audience, that something that could help them? I mean, I don't like to use the words suggest, because that's not the right way of saying it, but just something. It's like I was telling you guys earlier, somebody asked me when I was a guest on a podcast, what was one of the greatest things that you learned during all the pain you went through? And for me, that was forgiveness. But what is it that you can share just to people that are out there that are struggling? Just, give them some hope, because I mean, this whole show's been full of hope. I mean, it really has.
Find someone that'll listen. Find someone that'll listen.
Okay.
And never stop asking. Or just start asking. Can I say what ASK stands for?
Yes, go
It's
for
your
it.
ask saving kit. So just start asking. Like, that's what you have to do. You just have to start asking, start trusting, because you're worth it. And there's somebody out there that will guide you to exactly where you need to go.
Janessa, isn't that awesome what she just shared? Because what did Sarah talk about at the end of the show, the morning show?
Mm-hmm.
She said the same thing.
You just need to open up and I
And,
feel like
yeah.
the last when we were interviewing Cinda,
Uh-huh.
it's the same thing. We're like, what's the difference between the addicts that don't make it and the addicts that do? What is it? And I was like, I really think it's that they take that step and reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
I really think that's what makes the difference.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can say this on here, but I just went and got certified as I'm a certified recovery specialist, advanced, and an interventionist. So I'm going in different directions. I want to help families more on the deeper level. I work in treatment right now, right?
Okay.
But I want to jump in with both feet, and I want to jump into helping families recover.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
So if somebody, I mean, again, like we shared at the start of the show, this is your show. So
Yeah.
if somebody wants to reach out to you, Tracey, I mean, that's how I found you when you were doing a podcast with Todd Sylvester.
Yeah.
If somebody says, hey, because by asking, and our guest this morning even said this, find somebody that you can trust. Just because you may find 2, 3, or 4, 5 people that just wasn't a fit for you doesn't mean that they're not out there, because they are.
Right.
You may be a fit for somebody that somebody's looking for. How can they find you? I mean, is there
Same way.
on
can call me.
Facebook or
I'll give you my number, 801-427-4139. Text me before you call me, because I probably won't answer it because phone calls are crazy.
yeah.
Extended car warranty.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So call me, and then you can find me on Facebook under Tracey Williams, and you can email me at twspiritwarrior@gmail.com. I'm a spirit warrior, man.
I love it. Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that we get all this information before you leave, because when your show comes out, I want to make sure that we put all that information. I won't post your phone number, though.
Okay,
I
perfect.
don't, put that out on social media, but as far as your other stuff, I'd
Yeah.
love to make sure that we get that out
Perfect.
there.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome.
And with that, to you guys again, everybody that's listening to the show, thank you all for your support
Thank
and your
you.
love. Again, thank you, ladies, for being here.
Yeah.
Al, thank you for having me be here, and Brad, for everything that you do. With that said, guys, if you hear somebody that, again, needs to hear this message that you feel could help, please share it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Definitely helps us out. And again, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys again. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for driving the distance that both you ladies drove. And JD, my gosh, he drives a long ways to get here on Thursday. So thank you. And
If y'all know
and,
where Redneck Santa Quinn's at, that's where
Yeah.
I'm located.
and we even had a guest in our studio. So Tracy's husband, Ed, was here watching the show with us. So Ed, thank you so much for being here. And thanks for coming with her. I always like to let our guests, especially the lady guests, know, hey, bring somebody with you just so you feel comfortable. But-
And thank you for showing her your support as
yeah,
well.
definitely.
And thanks
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Oh,
It was
Yeah.
so amazing.
yes, it was. Yeah.
Really.
Guys, thank you again for everything. Thank you for your support. All our sponsors. My gosh, just every week, man. I just can't thank you guys enough, because again, if it wasn't for all of you, we wouldn't be here today. So we're going to end this show by saying what we always say at the end. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. Thanks, guys.
Ooh.